Hey y'all, and welcome to today's very casual, very different video. I actually had a really different video planned for today, and I just had some things on my mind that I just felt like I needed to go ahead and share. So I'm literally making this no cuts. I'm just gonna upload it as it is. I just wanted to hop on here real quick and share this with you, and I hope it even comes across right because I usually cut out half of what I say because I ramble. So basically, there's been a couple things in the past week or two that have been kind of like revelations for me, I guess I could say, that have really changed the way I've thought about things. Both me and Cullen, he mentioned in a podcast a couple weeks ago that we both listened to the book, I Love You, But I Don't Trust You. And he actually found that book and downloaded it first and started listening to it when we were going through a little bit of a rough patch a couple weeks ago, and then told me that it was really great, helped him understand things from my perspective. And I'm not used to not being able to cut on these videos, but I'm not cutting up any of this. But so he got me listening to it, and it's been incredibly helpful. If you are in any type of relationship where there's been any kind of mistrust or difficulties with trust or whatever, it is incredibly helpful, incredibly eye-opening, understanding so many of the different processes that are going on in my head and his head, how might be making things worse, how he might be making things worse, how the way that we're handling things has not been always the right way because we're new to this. There's not a manual that comes with the situation that we've had. With addiction, there is a lot of dishonesty and hiding things and lying that goes on. That does not just happen in situations where there's like, you know, disloyalty or cheating or anything like that, which has not been the case in our situation. And I think a lot of people assume that when you talk about like hiding things, breaking trust, but it happens with addiction as well. And just to kind of get to the point, so there were two chapters that first started really kind of speaking to me. And it was chapter 8. This is on the audiobook, so I assume it's the same as the regular book. Chapter 8 talked a lot about how the lady who wrote the book actually had been in a situation where her husband had lied to her about something and she found out. And so there was this betrayal and her processing of all of that. And so she talks about how afterwards, you know, he was kind of expecting, you should just trust me. You should believe me. It's been 2 months. It's been 3 months. Like, why are you still questioning everything? Why are you still having a hard time? And she talks about how they would go through these arguments and was having a really hard time feeling like she got anything out of the discussions. It was like she would leave feeling like she just repeated herself and said the same thing over and over again, but never felt like, I wouldn't say satisfaction, but felt the like peace in her heart of things were going to be okay or were okay. The book just walks you through a ton of stuff that I can't even totally explain. But she talks about how she realized one of the main things was that she didn't feel like she was being seen or heard. So she felt like she was expressing to him that something was bothering her, something was upsetting her, and that he was just kind of defending himself, you know, like, well, that one time when you did this, then that makes me always think blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, then her husband would go back to, well, I did that because yada, yada, yada. And it would go in that cycle when basically she was like, I literally just need him to know that this was a big deal to me. Even some little lie, even something that didn't seem like a big deal to him hurt me, because there's so many little things along the way when you've been through a kind of extended or long-term or even a short-term kind of traumatic experience, that you have a certain place in your house that reminds you of a certain argument that you have a certain place you drive by where you remember like getting a phone call that something wasn't right, or you remember seeing a place where you know that your significant other went and shouldn't have been, all those types of things that the person who was on the lying end of things doesn't really realize are still hurtful to you. So that was kind of part of it, about like not feeling seen or heard. So Cullen and I have talked about some of that and been through it. still like, it's still a work in progress and we're still working on a lot of things, but that's one part. So that's something that I would encourage those of you who may be in a situation like this to kind of consider, whether you're on either side, that may be something that is difficult. Something that the book recommended and that I've tried to do is if there's something, because I feel like I will kind of relive out loud as things are better, like in the moments when things are better, I will say, yeah, that one day was like really horrible because you know, I knew you were lying to me, but you were telling me you weren't lying, or, you know, just those types of things. And he's like, why do you have to rehash the old days? And it's like, because that's what's going through my head. That's what I'm thinking about. And it's, to him, it's an attack on him. But to me, it's just like, actually, I'm just processing this. Sorry, the dog is like jumping all over me right now and I can't cut this video, so she's just gonna have to wait. But anyways, it's basically all I need him to do is say, I'm sorry that you're still having to have those memories. I know that must have been really hard on you. Acknowledge it and move on. So that's kind of where we are with that. But the next chapter, and this is kind of the big thing, just like always takes me forever to get to my point, was about anger. And basically, I'm gonna keep talking to y'all and go get this dog a treat. This is a very informal video here. Basically, just that I don't have to be angry. And that sounds weird. Sounds like weird to hear somebody say that probably. Like, well, of course you don't have to be angry. What are you talking about? But I feel like that in the moment, in those types of situations, you think, or I don't know, maybe it's just me, that I have to be angry. That's my job, that's my place, that's what I'm supposed to do. If I'm not angry, then I'm gonna show him that it's okay or that it didn't hurt me or whatever else. And as I've started being more aware of my anger and like, why is there anger? What is the anger about? Is the anger about the things that happened in the past? Or is the anger about the way things are being handled currently? Regardless, as I started processing all of that, it was kind of like permission that when times are good, it's okay to be happy and it's okay to be positive and not be angry and not have to feel like I need to be critical or whatever else. And this may sound strange to some of y'all who have not been in this situation or don't get it, but it was a very kind of like flipping moment for me to realize that. And I don't know, it made me start thinking about anger overall and like in situations where my first response is anger. I feel like lately, by lately, I mean over the past year or so with everything going on, when you're in a situation where you're kind of being, I guess I could use the term taken advantage of. I don't know that that's probably the right term, but on the other end of somebody hurting you, doing something that they, you know, shouldn't be doing or lying to you about or whatever. Anger is like a normal, legitimate response to that. It's gonna make you angry. And the point is you can't stay there. I think that's true about a lot of emotions and different things. But you can't stay there. You can't stay angry. And I think I've heard that before and I was like, yeah, but I am angry and like, this isn't right. And how am I not supposed to be angry? And you just can't stay there. And it's okay to not be angry. And so in other situations where I've tried to like figure out why am I feeling angry? So my first response when, you know, the kids do something that makes me mad or when somebody else does something that makes me mad, my first response is to be angry. And why is that? Why am I angry at something somebody else does that is not within my control? And it really goes back to what I talked about many videos ago in the very beginning about this issue, which a lot of it comes from the codependency stuff, is feeling like somebody else's actions are my actions, or feeling like I'm responsible for somebody else's actions, that it's my fault if somebody did something wrong, or just kind of holding it against somebody. I've really been working on that lately, and I feel like there's so many different situations where I've realized that instead of being angry, it's if I take a step back and just say, why am I feeling angry? Is it because something is out of my control? Is it something that should be in my control? Is it something that I need to let go of? And then kind of moving on. So for the smallest example, like the other day, we were driving in the car and there's somebody in front of us that just kind of totally blew through a stop sign, didn't really stop. And typically I would be like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. I can't believe that person ran that stop sign. And then in my heart, like still dwell on it and feel like angry that that happened, that like, that is just terrible. They could have hit somebody and they, okay, well, those things are all true. Yes, it was very dangerous and it could have ended badly, but at that point, nothing bad did happen and there was nothing I could do to control that situation anyway. So when I'm letting that anger harbor in my heart and in my brain and like start playing in my head, it's not like I felt like I should have done anything about it. It's just like letting somebody else's actions ruin my mood or my like mental state. And that's just, it's not healthy. And I've just realized, even if it's like, you know, the kids do something that I told them not to, well, your first response is going to be upset, but you have a talk with them, or you can calmly respond, understand that they're kids, understand that other people make mistakes, understand that it's okay for me to make mistakes. All of this is stuff that I've been working on lately and trying to figure out. This is probably sounds like a bunch of randomness to a bunch of you guys, and you're like, what is this girl talking about? I have a hard time expressing some of it sometimes because I'm like, it's all in my head, and my head is so, a lot of times that I have a hard time getting it out in a way that might make sense to other people. But basically at that point, it's coming down to me realizing that if I am in a situation where I'm feeling angry or resentful, there's usually something that if it's not in my control, I can let go. Like the thing about somebody running the stop sign, literally move on. It's not gonna help my day any to dwell on that. So I need to move on. And that's a very small example. This goes to even more extreme things and even smaller things. It's crazy when you have a mindset or a thought pattern or a behavior pattern that has been consistent within you for a long time, that it's really hard to change. Even if it seems weird to other people, it may be normal to me. Like I've kind of, that's just the way I feel like I had to respond. I don't know. It's a whole weird thing. But I've found that what I need to do, if it is something that is in my control, then I need to trust myself and speak up for myself, and that is okay. That it is okay for me to have an opinion on something. It's okay for me to have an opinion on something that may be different from somebody else's. It's okay for me to like something that's different from what somebody wants me to like. It's okay for me to carry out my life, my day, my week, my plans in a way that I know is best for me and for my family, regardless of whether not everybody agrees with it. And that is a big, huge step for me to be able to say that. To be able to say it's okay if I decide something and then I realize I was wrong, or if I realize I've made a mistake, or if I realize that I didn't actually do something perfectly. It's something I'm working on, feeling like I shouldn't be allowed to make mistakes, but we're human, we're all human. Understanding that other people make mistakes. Not getting angry and frustrated and upset at the person who was supposed to bring me a sandwich with no tomatoes and they brought the tomatoes. And not like thinking badly of that person and that they were like had it out for me and wanted to give me tomatoes anyway, but thinking that they are human and they made a mistake and it's okay. And maybe they just, maybe it wasn't written down right. Maybe they didn't see the order right. Maybe they just weren't paying attention, or maybe they're just lazy. I don't know why, but understanding that that's not my fault. It's not in my control. and giving other people grace, giving myself grace, knowing that I can make mistakes. It does happen. And if I do, admitting it and allowing myself to apologize or rectify the situation or whatever it may be. But basically knowing that in all situations, I need to trust myself, trust God to guide me and lead me through whatever decisions I need to make. It's just, I don't know. That's always been a part of it, but it's always been, I've always questioned myself and doubted myself. And if you don't love yourself enough, then you're not going to be able to trust yourself. You're not going to be able to love other people enough. And in the Bible, Jesus tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves. He does not tell us to love our neighbor and not love ourselves. He doesn't tell us to love our neighbor more than ourselves. He tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves, meaning we should love ourselves, we should love our neighbors. And that doesn't mean you need to be self-obsessed, and that doesn't mean you need to idolize yourself. There's a big difference in idolizing yourself or idolizing somebody and loving somebody. And loving yourself means you give yourself grace, you move on when you make a mistake, and you trust that what you're doing is the thing that is best for you, best for your family. And I keep getting notifications that are popping up and distracting me. Okay, this ended up being way longer than I thought it would be. And I told Cullen, I was like, it's only gonna be 5 minutes. And it was totally not 5 minutes, but that's basically, it is what it is. Take what you want from it. I don't know if any of you guys needed to hear this today. Maybe you did. Regardless, I started this whole process on my channel, this journey on my channel, documenting it as something for me to look back on, primarily kind of as my diary, my journal of where I am, where I've come from, and where I'm going in this process. It's a major process. Cullen talks about in one of the recent podcast how I have been seeing a counselor, and then he's come with me a few times, and there's just been so many like aha realization moments that come out there that haven't come out before, or that have been things that I'm like, oh my gosh, kind of like the thing that seems so strange to some of you, I'm sure, of like, oh, I don't have to live angry. I don't have to live bitter and resentful. I can move on from this. Anyways, okay. It's been an interesting mental couple of weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching. And I will be back next Thursday with a regular video. I just needed to throw this out there, document this for myself, for you guys. I just wanted to put this out there as I kind of made this step in transitioning my mind at this point. So thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you liked it. And I will see you guys on maybe Monday morning for a live stream. How about that? Stay tuned. I'll keep y'all posted on Instagram. Bye guys.